Right. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to our session on AI in the classroom using prompt engineering and generative AI. Thanks so much for making time to get together. We're going to be covering the technology that seemingly everyone's been talking about. ChatGPT was released in November of this previous year, and has quickly gone, is a very quiet launch, but it very quickly went over to 100 million users within just over a month, and now, of course, is really everywhere. And we're going to be talking about possible uses of ChatGPT and other generative AI models, things to be careful about, misses and misuses, and then we're going to be talking about some additional technology as well that you might find useful, and a project that we're running over the summer to help you include some of this technology in your classroom if you're so interested. So first, let's start with some quick introductions. So I'm Jesse Spencer-Smith, and I'm Chief Data Scientist at the Data Science Institute. And we also have some other members of our Data Science Institute. Shara, why don't we start with you, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi there, I am Shara Bell. I'm the Senior Data Scientist here at the DSI, and then also the Director of the Data Science Minor. Welcome, welcome.
And Miranda, how about you?
Hi, I'm Miranda. I am also a Senior Data Scientist here at the DSI.
Let's see, and I don't think, Umang, are you here yet? Umang was having to like reinstall his OS, so he may not be here for a little while. And I don't think Abby, are you here with us right now? Okay, cool. There you are.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm a postdoc at the DSI.
Excellent. And we're also joined by Brooke Atkinson, who is our PR person here at the DSI. So thank you very much, you all, for being here. All right, if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and just take a moment and fill out that survey. That will help. So quick question for you all. How many people, and you can use hand raise, or you can use the virtual reactions for a thumbs up. How many?
Don't forget to start the recording. Sorry.
Thank you very much. No, that was perfect. And this is the one time I did. So how many of you like to get feedback from your students on the previous lesson that you've had? What you understood, what you didn't understand? Yeah. So we have a number. Fantastic. So one of the issues that I run across, and tell me if this is true with you, is finding time to actually read and then to summarize that before walking into the class the next time. So yeah, it's a challenge, and you don't want them to fill it out unless you're going to be using it. So let me demonstrate for you one of the uses before we even get started. One of the uses for this technology. So here we have the responses. So we have a number of different responses here, and this is great. And I really would love to be able to, to summarize this, what you all have heard about ChatGPT in particular. But frankly, I just got the feedback from you, and that is not enough time for me to read before we get started with this session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to export all of your responses. And so this is, what are some positive or negative things that you've heard about generative AI models? I'm going to copy all of this down. So now I have a copy of that all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into I have to move things around just a little bit so I can get to it. There we go. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to go and use the default ChatGPT. This is something that you can use for free. And I'm going to say, please summarize all of the following responses to the question. You'll notice what I'm doing here is I'm not just saying summarize. I'm saying, please summarize all the responses to a question. So I'm giving it a little bit more context. So I'm giving it the actual question that was used in the question. I have to look it up again. So the question was right here. I'm going to put that in as well. So I put the question in there. Here are the responses to summarize. Please come up with the three most positive things people have heard about ChatGPT. So a couple of things here. It's okay to be wordy. You know, there's not some magic code that makes it shorter necessarily. And we're going to see there's something close to it, but so wordiness is fine, but you should be as specific as possible. Notice I didn't just say summarize. I said I want 3 positive things. So guiding with the prompt. You notice I'm also even saying please. Well, this may or may not be necessary, but the model is designed to respond to what we put into it. And even though there are guidelines that are learned in the model, we've seen with Bing GPT in an earlier iteration where it started to get very rude with the users. And that was because there was a weak prompt that was there to make it positive. So it's not a bad thing to use positive. As a matter of fact, it might help shape the responses as well. So just like you would be talking to someone and make a polite request, you can certainly do that here. It can very well help shape the responses. All right, let's go ahead and run it. And I'm going to go ahead and put in all of these responses. I'm just going to paste them all in. Oops, except I just messed up. I'm going to have to get them again. So here are all the responses. And we're going to paste them in. Now we have a limit. We have a limit. They may not all fit in. You have about 2,000 tokens here, but we're going to give it a shot. Of course. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to start a new chat. We're going to try this one more time. I'm going to take that whole message before. Again, this is the prompt and all the information, and we're going to run it. Now, so a couple of interesting things. All right, so positive things: increased coding, potential for individual tutoring, and can generate points for creating publications. Notice what else it did. It also pointed out the negative. So can make up citations, may contain biased data, and accuracy of GPT for identifying plagiarism is still questionable. All excellent points. Patty, you had a question, is token a word? Yeah, I did kind of sneak that in, didn't I? So let's go ahead and talk about where tokens come from, but and I'll do that next. But just know these are the kinds of things you can do. It's not just for writing. It can also be for summarizing and for question answering and for analysis as well. As a matter of fact, that may very well be the highest best use in your classroom, is something along these lines. But we'll explore that together. But let's talk a little bit about what I meant by tokens and how the models even work. We're going to take just a few minutes to jump into this. Going to give you a really high level view of it. And if you're interested in diving in deep, then we have a full 4-week summer session, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday session, if you want to go deep into these, and you're more than welcome to join us for that. Would love to have you, and we'll give you the information on registering for that at the end of this session. All right, so here we go. So this is a generative model. So really looking right here is this right here in the middle right here is the, I'm going to make sure that, just want to be sure you're seeing the prompt and the response and a model in the middle. Thumbs up. That's what you're seeing here. Great. So what you're looking at here is a transformer model. In particular, it's a decoder transformer model. So what happens is you put in a prompt that's text, and then next what you do is you, it has to be tokenized. So deep learning models can only deal with numbers. They can't actually deal with words. So what happens is these token embeddings identify words with numbers. So it can be a word or a subword, because if you tried to number all the words, you'd have millions. And plus you can make up words, right? So Google Fest probably doesn't have a token. So how would I encode it? Well, probably Google Fest may be an important, so there might just be 3 tokens. So common words, such as vote, are probably a single token. So it's a token is a word or a subword, but it's a numeric representation for it. So here's what the models do. They take these numbers and they embed them, they move them, they shift those numbers around in a couple of different ways, and they put them into what's called a semantic space. This means everything that the model knows is stored within the model. The basic models have no access to the outside world. It's only what they've been trained on. So they've been trained on text. They understand and represent the world based on the text that they've been trained on. So that can be, a wide variety of information. It can be, books that are not in copyright, or even books that are in copyright, depending on how ethical the people are who are training the model. It can be, conversations. It can be, information from the internet. It could be conversations on the internet. It could be Reddit. It could be wide variety. We're talking about, over 1 trillion words that are often used to train these models. Did anything I just said cause you any discomfort? So trained on books, that's okay. Trained on other stuff on the internet. Yikes. Yeah. So have you ever seen on the internet that you found disturbing, wrong, biased? Yeah, it's almost safer to say, has a day gone by where you have not seen something on the internet, which was so absolutely. So, it's sexist. Yeah, absolutely. That means that's what these models have learned. Okay, so bias exists in the model because of the training that they've been given, right? And it's unavoidable. I mean, we can mitigate, but it is there. And that's important to remember, something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is this is limited capacity. Even though these models, some of them are big, we know that ChatGPT, that ChatGPT is based on something which is about 175 billion parameters. These are the weights that are associated, generally the weights that are associated with the model that does the learning, but it's still finite. So think of its representation of the world as what you can find on the internet or in books or in articles, but a fuzzy JPEG at that. So think of ChatGPT as having like a fuzzy JPEG of the internet. So some facts are in there, some facts are not in there. It's been trained on everything, but some things just didn't make the cut. It didn't appear enough, so it didn't learn it deeply. So let's continue with the process here. It learns it, it stores it all here. We have hidden states, and then it predicts the next word. Matter of fact, that's pretty much all that these generative models are doing. Given a prompt, produce a plausible output. So what is the next most likely word? That's really what it's doing. Now it has additional training, so it will do things like recognize when you're asking for something. This is called supervised fine training, instruction fine tuning, reinforcement learning from human feedback. These are all ways to get the model to understand when you're asking a question. And when you're asking a question, then the next most likely thing is the response. But still, it's just trying to come up with a plausible response. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of the term, if you've ever heard of the models hallucinating. So thumbs up, okay. So a few folks, people talk about that when the model makes up things. So the model will make up things, and if it doesn't have access to the internet, it will make up additional things because its training is to produce the next most likely text. So I'm going to see if I can get, let's see if I can get ChatGPT to make up some stuff for me. Let's see. I need an author. Can somebody suggest an author for me that you like but may not be as well known? John Green. well, let's try John Green. I mean, he's
I was
pretty
about to say Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay. Okay, so let me give, please, Sandra, have you, Zora Neale Hurston is one of my favorite writers. you might have known that. Let's go and say, oh yeah, okay, let's say can you please list, let's say 10 books, because I don't think there are 10 books by Zora Neale Hurston. Okay. And of course it says something went wrong. Huh. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can do a new chat and see if we can do GPT-4. And we'll see if we can get it to, this is the thrill of working with live. Fascinating. So,
Jesse, did you need to be sharing your screen?
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. Well, actually, you're going to see, and thank you so much for doing that, because when I'm trying to juggle too many things, it will absolutely go wrong. But as you're going to see here, getting that is not responding. So I'm going to try one more time. And we'll see. Interesting. So I think that chat is down for me at the moment. All right. So let me talk through what is likely to happen. First of all, it's not going to know 10 books. It's going to know maybe Their Eyes Were Watching God and a few other things. So what is the most likely thing? It's going to make up titles that sound like they could have been written by Zora Neale Hurston. Why? Because that's how we train the model. So if you try to use these models as a replacement for Google search or a replacement for searching the internet, it won't work. And worse, it's going to sound about right. It'll even make up articles. If you're trying to do a literature search, it'll make up articles and come up with the name of the magazines that will sound about right. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So, so here, if you look in chat, there's some good examples from someone who was able to get it to work. Their Eyes Were Watching God. It got that. Fantastic. Barakun, that's the real one. Moses, Man of the Mount. I don't know about that one, but actually, you know, this is not bad. So it knows more than I thought it would. But it's not going to hesitate, and it will absolutely make up. So what do? Well, one thing is, you could give it access to the internet. As a matter of fact, this is exactly what Bing GPT has. You have to ask for access to Bing GPT. What Bing GPT will do is you give it the prompt, give me 10 books by Zora Neale Hurston. It goes through, it realizes that it needs to make a call to the internet to answer your question. So it has a tool. It can use the tool to look up and do an internet search. It will go back, take that and put that back into its own prompt and rerun. Or it can also take the results and put it directly into its response. So it can pre-generate saying, here are 10 books written by Zora Neale Hurston. Go to internet lookup, put the 10 under there, and maybe generate a few things after that. So that's tool use. The basic ChatGPT does not have that. So you can't use it to look up things. Bing GPT does have that, so you can use Bing GPT to search for things on the internet. So question about what you can and can't do with models so far.
I had a question whether GPT-4, can you talk a little bit about GPT-4 number of parameters and to what extent it has the same shortcomings as ChatGPT?
Great. I would love to be able to talk about GPT-4 and the number of parameters it has and its training data, and if it's any of a different architecture, but I can't because they have not shared that. They keep it closed, which is very uncool and hugely problematic. But do know that there's some very good work on completely open source models that is progressing very nicely. One of them called Red Pajamas. Funny name, but you might have heard of this, but it's, so there are other alternatives, but for now, even though GPT-4 is an extremely capable model and is somewhat larger, perhaps quite a bit larger than GPT-3 or ChatGPT, we don't know. We do know in our team, we've discovered that it codes better, that the responses are more sophisticated, that it's more responsive to prompts. So we know those things, but that's all that we know. Bing GPT is based on an early version of GPT-4. So Microsoft got access to an early because they gave free compute to the company that created ChatGPT and GPT-4. So they got an early version of it. And so when you do Bing Chat, and we'll put that in the chat of how you apply for that, then you do get GPT-4, an early version of it, and access to the internet. So what do we know is it's bigger. We know that this decoder stack is larger. We are unsure if it's a different architecture, but really all of these have been variations on a theme for all of these transformer models. They've all looked basically like this. All right, so let's see if there's another question. Oh, excellent, very, very good. Okay, can a model be trained on a specific data set? Yes. So here's the thing. So we're going to be talking today about chat models. Chat models are large language models that have been trained on large amounts of text and have had further training that's called reinforcement learning from human feedback, which makes it possible for them to operate like a chatbot, like a useful companion as you're working through problems. This also kind of breaks them. This means that those ChatGPT models and other ones like that cannot be further trained easily. However, the underlying models that they came from can be. So yes, it can happen. Yes, you can do additional training, and you can learn all about that in our AI summer, but know that the chat models are locked. Once you've turned it into a chatbot, it's very difficult to do additional training on that. Let's talk about what's coming next with the chat models, and then we're going to go and we're going to start trying out some of these prompts. So what's better than access to the internet? Access to many tools. So, you could do internet search. You could also do an individual store of your own data. So if you wanted to reference your own data, you could do that. So Roberto, this is, you may have been asking if you can have it know about stuff that you've written. Yeah, this is the way to do it. Document store. You may have heard that these models are terrible at doing math. Well, great. Just give it access to a calculator. You may want it to do complex kinds of things or answer, specific types of questions. Well, there's a tool where you can access Wolfram Alpha. These are things that are going to be becoming available for ChatGPT and GPT-4 over the summer. Plus, even now, you can build these solutions using other tooling that's called LangChain. And we're going to be teaching that over our AI summer. So this is what's possible with augmented models. Most of the models that we have, though, that we have access to now are not augmented. And right now, only Bing GPT has definitive access to the internet. So keep this in mind as we talk further. Let's see, Holly, you asked, what should we know about privacy and copyrighted materials when searching our own databases? That is a great question. Let me go ahead and hop over to let's see here. And let me go ahead and take a look at some, share some guidance with you. I was just having a conversation with the General Counsel, as a matter of fact, about the use of these models, Vanderbilt General Counsel. And here's just some general guidelines to keep in mind. First of all, you should never be sending private student information up. For ChatGPT, GPT-4, all these models, you're sending information off. And even though, and there's no restriction on what they can do with that data. If you're using the web interface, almost certainly they're going to be using the data to train their models further. So if you have student information in there, you're actually having it stored and encoded offsite. So absolutely no student information because you have no control over that. If you want to build a solution where you maybe do something with student information, stay tuned. We're going to be working on having on-site models that are, behind our firewall, but we'll need to work everything through first. But current state of the models, you should not include. Some other high-level things that we'll return to in a minute. But down here, you should consider citing your use of ChatGPT. They have a publication policy here.
Jesse,
yes.
We are not seeing what you are looking at. We see ChatGPT.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And feel free to interrupt me whenever you need to immediately, because I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so general guidelines. Here we go. Never include student information. Okay, and you can see this right now, Miranda? Great, thank you. All right, so publication policy, if you use it for publication, you will probably want to cite, and your publication will have guidance around what you should and should not do. Do familiarize yourself with the terms of use and with the usage policies. They try to be as liberal as possible about things that are generated. So they say, if you generate something with ChatGPT, then you have what it generates. Is it copyrightable? That is completely up for debate right now. The terms of use say that you can use it as you wish, but they also have a carve out for themselves, so they get to use. So OpenAI gets to use what you produce as well, probably for training. So this is especially problematic right now with code, because right now Copyright Office is saying that code that is generated with this may not be copyrightable. These are all things that are going to be worked out over the ensuing months and possibly years. But something to keep in mind, if you're doing high stakes things with these models, you probably want to wait for models that we can have on-premise, that we can run locally, and for which the licensing is clearer. Holly, did that answer your question? I'll take it
as much as any question is going to be answered in this particular era we're living in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be getting more guidance. And so yes, Bard is attached to the internet. It is a bit of a wild card. Bard is definitely catching up. I would say possibly by the end of the summer it may be as performant. But Bard, yes, is definitely an option. The coding is not as good, the responses are not as good, but it does have access to the internet. Terrific. Any other questions?
So I may have been confused a bit. So let me ask this again.
Yes.
You could theoretically train one of these models on a particular area of knowledge you define, right? Like you say, you've got these access, say, to a particular subfield of science. Train a similar language model. And then you have it as your companion, and you need to ask questions, you need references, you need, is that actually possible?
Well, let's go ahead and let's go and take a look at these augmented models again. So this is, let me go into screen 2. Okay. And I'm going to double check from now on. And you're seeing the GPT-X with LangChain? Excellent. Okay, good. So a chat model is locked, right? You can't train a chat model much anymore. So one way that you could be operating on your own documents to ask questions about your own documents is you could be using a document store. And what happens here is that the model knows that it needs to go to your document store, look things up for question answering, summarization, guidance. And that is a way to use a chatbot with your own materials. But what you mentioned, Hassan, was a little bit different. Can you train a model further and then use it as a chat? You can. What you'd have to do is you have to go back to the state of the model before it was a chatbot. Do the training, extensive training there. And what happens there, the way to think about that is it learns and stores that knowledge and represents that knowledge in the decoder stack. Then you'd have to do additional training with reinforcement learning from human feedback if you wanted it to be a chatbot again. And then you could bring it up. So that's the state of the art right now if you want it to learn here. But a better solution probably is going to be a document store. And that is tied together with this thing called LangChain that we'll talk about briefly at the end of here, but certainly in the AI summer, we'll be talking about more in depth. And yes, case text may very well be, they are very probably doing, Mark, a document store with what's called a semantic search. So the model itself doesn't know it, but it knows that it needs to go and ask the question of its document store, pulls the information in. So you can imagine the document store either providing additional information for the response or the document store going all the way back and providing additional context in the prompt. Both are possible. And that's how solutions are being built right now. And yes, I will touch on AutoGPT just very briefly. Imagine that, that you ask this model to solve a problem that's really complex. So its first pass through here, it may only be able to do a little bit, but you could use a document store to store where you got to, and then ask it with an automated prompt, did I get to the answer yet, yes or no? And if it didn't, then it could go back and rerun itself with the updated information it had. So think about it looping through based on a control, which is itself a prompt. That's called AutoGPT. We'll be having another session on this later on in the summer, but think of the model looping itself to solve more complex problems. It's a different kind of tool, and it's a different kind of infrastructure that can do that. Oh, and are there plans to introduce the in-house model in Epic? I do not know what Epic's plans are. Epic is electronic health record information system. If I were Epic, I would absolutely be looking to develop this in-house. All right. Oh, thank you, Ya. Excellent. Let's go ahead and let's start talking about some of the prompts. So, one way to think about prompts is one prompt after another. Oh, I have a new prompt for you to try. But another way to think about it is that these are collections of different ways of interacting. So you can think of these as patterns. So we're only going to touch on this a little bit, but think of prompts as being different patterns of ways of interacting with the model. So just know that this exists. I'm going to send you the link to the paper. You can look at it. You're and happy to answer any questions about it. But prompts are just not words that you come up with or sentences. You can think of them as ways of controlling the model, controlling the interaction, controlling what kind of output you're going to get from it, helping it identify when it has errors, helping you come up with better prompts. So there's a lot that can be going on with prompting. And as a matter of fact, we call this the practice of prompt engineering. So it's a whole field in and of itself of how to think about and how to get the models to do what you need them to do. I'm going to touch on just a few of these that we're going to be trying out now. I'm hoping we're going to be trying out. We'll see if ChatGPT begins to work for me. One of these is the persona right here. So persona is actually telling the model that it needs to take on a particular persona. So in this case, you're an expert in visualization using principles from perceptual and cognitive psychology to make decisions and suggestions on visualizations. Now, on the one hand, this seems kind of silly, right? And you're just telling a model to pretend to be something. Why would that help? Well, remember that the model is actually really substantial here. So this is a lot of information, and it's been trained on many different viewpoints. It's been trained on books on visualization, for example. But think about all of the different signals that you could be getting from this. So you might ask about a graph. And if you ask for feedback from the model on a graph, you don't know what you're going to be getting. Who are you going to be hearing from? Think of this as the chorus of voices in ChatGPT. There's good advice there. There's bad advice in there. There are knowledgeable voices, not knowledgeable voices. So what you're saying is you're lifting up all of that has to do with expertise in graphs. You don't want to hear just about anything. You want to hear things that have to do with being an expert in graphs. This actually works out really quite well and works in combination with other types of prompting. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like in practice, and then I'll take any questions that you have as we go into this. So I'm going to show you some prompts here, and we're going to be trying out some of these prompts. I'm going to ask for you to try them out too. I'll paste these into for you to try out as well. So here's some prompts. So this is the just-in-time survey summarizer. We used a version of this at the very beginning here. You're an experienced educator who is skilled at determining the common themes and student feedback. Given a question, given a question and student responses, you'll produce a summary with top 3 topics. So that's one that I came up with. Ethan Malik, and I'll be sending you a link to some of his stuff, has written some terrific things on using ChatGPT and GPT-4. This is his prompt. I'm a teacher who wants to understand what students found most important about my class. So one, I'm giving a persona. In his, he's giving context. Both tend to work really quite well. So questions about personas or about these prompts.
How detailed do these need to be, and does it matter as to how specific it is? For example, like for this for the visualization, does it matter if you give the prompt that you recommended versus just telling it that you are an expert statistician helping academicians or something like that? Or you have to, or does it matter when you sort of narrow it down to that specific area?
Yeah. So for the persona prompts, what you find is an improvement. So can it not work at all if you don't get the persona? No, it will give you something. But what you'll find is that it will give you higher quality responses. So let me pop back up here for just one moment. One of the general guidelines that we'll be sharing with you is just think iteratively with prompts. And what you find is if you use a persona prompt, you have to iterate less. You might be able to get on the very first time without having to modify, so you get much better feedback, much clearer than if you don't have the persona prompt. So it depends on the model too. So persona prompts work even better with GPT-4 than they do with ChatGPT. With BARD, I think they're still in early stages of doing reinforcement learning from human feedback, because it's really catch as catch can with them. So it helps. Sometimes it makes a huge difference. Sometimes the choice of wording is really important. So let's go and take a look at the quiz generator, and then we'll take a look at some examples from the quiz generator. So this is for you. And the idea here is, if you want to be able to create quizzes for low stakes testing, so think formative assessments where you want to generate many different questions, it takes a long time to write them. This is a great use of ChatGPT. But notice here that I say, you are an expert at creating diagnostic quizzes for formative assessments. This really narrows down the context. Given a topic, it will produce a quiz with 5 multiple choice questions with 4 plausible answers each, not including all of the above. If you don't include that part, it almost always includes all of the above. Why? Because that's the wording that appears time and time again on quizzes. So sometimes the prompt matters a lot. So saying don't include that really is important. And then this part, for each answer, you provide a reason as to why it is correct or incorrect. And then I give it the topic. Topic is early Roman Empire. Please generate the quiz now. So let's go and take a look at what it generated for me previously. So here we go. Here's my prompt. And then it comes back with, notice that you see what it's doing right here? This is Bing GPT that I used here. So it went and it searched early Roman Empire, and then it searched for early Roman Empire facts. How did it know to do that? Well, it could tell it'd been trained on whenever you get asked something specific to go and do a web search for it, which it did automatically, and then use that information to ask questions. And this one's kind of, you'll notice it's doing a couple of things here. One, these are not bad. So it gives you A, B, C, D. It gives you, when was the Roman Empire first established? 27 BC, correct. This is the year when Octavian, later Augustus, became the sole ruler of Rome. And then also cites where it got it from. It's only using one, it's using Britannica, it's Encyclopedia Britannica for everything. 509 BC, incorrect. This is the year when the Roman Republic was founded. So these are actually pretty diagnostic. These are pretty good related facts and facts for each one. So not a bad start for quizzes. How many of you have ever actually put quizzes into Brightspace? Oh, you have? How quick is that, Patty? And you may be a master at this now, but here.
No, it's not easy. First you have to generate it, and then you have to create, the plausible responses, and that requires time, and then you have to type them in. And yeah, no, that was much faster.
But you still have to get it into Brightspace. So
That's right.
here's the next prompt, which is of that design of output. Please take the quiz you just produced and put it into a format appropriate for importing into Brightspace. So what it did was use the CSV template from the Brightspace documentation, creates this, so now it's ready for import into Brightspace. So that's where the iteration comes in, right? Iterate on the prompt until you get what you want. Iterate on the prompt, and you can refer to things that have come before until you get into the format that you need as well. So questions about this?
Okay, that seems like too good to be true. So, so if I can create these questions, yes, that is awesome, yeah, isn't it? So what was the prompt that I'm going to use this tomorrow or this
Absolutely.
afternoon?
And I will send you all of these prompts. So the first prompt was, you're an expert at creating diagnostic quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
Then the follow-up prompt was, please take the quiz you just produced and put it into a format appropriate for importing into Brightspace.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to try it. I'll let you know how it works.
Then here you go. Exactly. Now, and again, if it doesn't work, then what you might need to do is to describe exactly what you want. Oh, yes, I know. And this hours and hours of that fiddly work. Keep in mind, it's worthwhile once you land on the prompt that works. So let's say it doesn't import correctly first. It's worth iterating. And you can put the error back into Bing GPT or ChatGPT. You can say, I tried to import your file and I got the following error, because it's also been trained on error codes. So it'll come back and say, oh, I see, I forgot to include the following. Try this. So once you iterate, then what you do is you can then say, collect all the prompts that previous into a single prompt that I can rerun to accurately and correctly generate a Brightspace output. And now it will take care of that for you. And now you have the prompt that you want to save.
Jesse, can I go on that thread a little bit? Which I'm loving this discussion. Over the weekend, well, Friday, I discovered GitHub's Copilot. And so between ChatGPT 4 and GitHub's Copilot, I feel like I'm 3 times more efficient than I was before I paid that $30 a month between the two services. And then I told all my staff to get it too, because I was like, we're gonna do great. And so we primarily do this for research, but I think I can ask this since we're focused on teaching today.
Yeah. If
we were to commercialize the product, like say Patty takes this, she develops all these, and I know you started to touch on this, and it's probably not a clear answer. There's not a clear answer here, but I'd love to get your thoughts. So if Patty were to create then like a nursing informatics guide that she published and included these CSV files as supplements, I heard this isn't copyrightable, but like what would, if this is a software product, is the tech transfer office going to think that we've used their intellectual property? I know the goal is still moving here, but what's the current thoughts in that frame of how we can market these products?
So as a matter of fact, just before our meeting here, just was on I was on a Zoom call with Tony from General Counsel's office, and talking about exactly this. And what we do is we call them in, because depending on how it's used, how much it's used, the road may be clear or may not be clear. So for example, Oracle right now, I was just talking to a senior, so Charo, you and I we're talking to a senior person at Oracle. They are not using AI assisted coding right now. And this is Oracle, because they're concerned about copywriting. But we are absolutely planning on using it in-house, because it is a huge accelerator, and we'll certainly be training our students on this as well. But for the near term, if you have products that you're creating, that's why you'll notice I'm not using prompts out here would say, write this for me. You know, it's yes, the quizzes, but these are low stake quizzes. We'll go on to some other prompts now where I'm asking for critiques, feedback, maybe rewording, but these are sort of limited use rather than creating whole cloth, because that is far more defensible. That's the word that I was hearing from General Counsel.
Okay. And so start with General Counsel or start with tech transfer, or does it matter?
I think that this was enough of an interest that I asked Tony if he'd be willing to give a workshop on this.
Oh, cool. Great.
And he said yes. So we will schedule that, and hopefully that'll make things easier, and that'll be a first step.
Cool. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go and take a look at another prompt here. Let's see here. Here we go. No, not that one. Okay, great. Yes. All right. So it's a quiz generator for us, but you could also do a quiz generator with students. So again, you're an expert at creating quizzes. We will play a game where you will produce a question with 4 answers each. So this is a different design pattern where the students could use this. So this is a prompt that you could give to students. So here's the prompt that I have. Although I didn't say Roman Empire here, I said the properties of light in a basic physics course. Great, I'm ready to play the game. Here's my first question. What is the speed of light in a vacuum? And then I answer C over here, and it says that is correct. And then it gives me more information about it. What is the phenomena of light bending when it passes from one medium to another? I said D, and it said that is incorrect. And it tells me why it was incorrect, and then gives me the correct answer. So again, low stakes, but providing prompts to your students for them to try out an experiment on their own is another way of getting them. Works better with Bing GPT, again, where it has access to the internet and you can be clearer and you can be more certain about the answers. But sometimes it gets things wrong. So here is, I suggest, oh, I don't have this in here. I forgot to put this in. So offer a bug bounty. So my suggestion is, if you have students directly using the tools, offer some small amount of credit or a shout out if they find anything that the model produces that is factually incorrect. This way, they're always on the lookout, because everyone's always on the lookout for a few extra points or for a shout out from the teacher. And it also puts them on guard that sometimes the model will produce very believable but incorrect things. So if you level set with students that sometimes there are mistakes and be on the lookout for them, I think that's a much healthier interaction with the models. Any questions about that? All right, then let's take a look at let's go and take a look at a few more prompts here and prompt patterns. Let's see here. Okay, some more prompt patterns. Okay. So here is another. I'm gonna share another one with you right now, which was critique my syllabus. So Bing GPT can find things on the internet, but you can't easily point it at a particular document. It has to go and search the document. We will be building tools over the summer that will allow you to go to a particular document, but right now it's copy and paste. But here's my prompt. You are an educational consultant. You review graduate level syllabi and provide specific feedback on how to improve them. I actually did this with one of my courses and critique my syllabus. And what I did was I put in the prompt and then I just copied and pasted all of the text. It did not fit all of the text. The formatting doesn't matter. Don't worry about it being pretty formatting. Remember, it all gets turned into tokens anyway. So anything which is formatting that doesn't fit, it's just put it in there because it will just lose it anyway. It doesn't need it. But here's what it said. First says, thank you for sharing your syllabus. And certainly because now the syllabus is part of their training material. So thank you for sharing your syllabus. At least it thanked me for it. But then it had some nice things. Overview section is too vague. Goal section is too ambitious. Class logistics section is too brief. Syllabus does not include a tentative schedule. Actually, it did, but it was below the token limit, so I couldn't get it in there. Actually, pretty useful. I found that this was much more useful after I give it the persona prompt. Because otherwise it's getting feedback from students. I want to hear from the educational consultant. So persona helps guide what kind of level of feedback and how good the feedback is that you're going to be getting back. Questions about this application? All right. Let's go ahead and I'm going to send these. I'm going to go and share this document. This document is a little bit rough. I'm going to be editing it further, but I'm going to share it with you right now. And I'm going to ask you all to try some of the prompts and to share what you have come up with. So I'm going to put this into the link right now. Go ahead and pull up the document, try out some of the prompts, and let's share back what we've learned. Okay, so there's a question now. So Alvin, you were kind of joking about the expense reports, but actually Bing GPT-4 is very good with tabular data and doing question answering and working with tabular data. So
I was wanting it to click the really ineffective GUI for me that takes 4 times to get it to load an Oracle. So it's really a bash on Oracle and not ChatGPT.
So fact is, some of the founders, some of the early people at OpenAI have founded a new company called Adept. And what Adept is doing is they're taking a look at the user interfaces for dozens of major software platforms and training models, because GPT-4 can also work with images. It's not shared yet, they don't make that available, but it can understand screenshots. So absolutely, they're building things that will click on the button until you get what you need, process what you get, and then take the actions that you need to. So this is a variety of the auto GPT that we were talking about before. So actually you jest, but actually yes. And in short order.
Because like, this has to be easier than creating like a Selenium program or something that would,
right.
It was like, that's too big of a workaround. I just want it
exactly. And this is much more automated. So is there a way to bypass the token limit? Not really. But this is where what we showed just in this graph over here, this is where these tools come in. There's no easy way, come on you, there we go. There's no easy way to increase the token limit here. That is a hard limit of the model, and it's very expensive to get longer and longer context here. You just can't do it. But you can have your own document store. And what it can do is it can find just those parts of the document that you need to answer the question or to get what you need and feed those back into the prompt. So that's how you get around, rather than trying to feed everything in. For example, I might be able to say, here is my full syllabus. Please go through section by section and critique each section. That, combined with an auto GPT, could go through and only put in context just each section at a time, or you can do that manually. But no, there's no way to just arbitrarily increase that long enough. All right. Let's see. The 4-week course. All right. So the 4-week course, and there's a link to it at the very bottom here. Let me go ahead and share back over here. So here you'll see a link to it at the very bottom of this, right here. This is our AIM AI summer series. And this is going to be a 4-week course. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where we go deeply into the different aspects of using. First week is prompt engineering. Second week is AI-assisted coding. Third and fourth week are all about LangChain and building things with that. They will all be recorded and will all be available on our YouTube channel. All right, closing minutes here. Any cool prompts? Did anybody try out prompts and has something that they're willing to talk about real quick? All right, I would. So in closing, think of combining the different types of prompts that we talked about: personas, giving context, giving guidance, iterate through. Keep in mind that anything that you put into that window is now somebody else's. So you want to not ever put any student information or anything that you hold dear. Make sure that you think about before you paste things into there. Please feel free to join us beginning May 8th for our 4-week course. You can just dip in for the first, if you want to dive more into prompt engineering, that first week is going to be going much more into prompt engineering. So if you'd like to learn more about that and learn new tips and tricks, feel free to join us just for that as well. I'll end here and take any final questions that people have. And Paris, you're interested in the document store? Yes, this is going to, the best place to do is to look at the documentation on LangChain. And you can also reach out to me, email me, and I will put you in touch. We'll also be talking about that absolutely during the 4-week AI summer. Excellent, great questions. Thank you, Ya. All right, I will stick around and answer questions. Okay, Holly, yes. How much time do we need to allocate to work outside the summer classes? Depends on how much you want to get out of it. I would say an hour or 2 hours is a good idea, but more time is better, of course. But really, you can even get something out of it, if it's just a little bit of time. Excellent. Great,
just
yes,
last question. So what kind of project would be? I'm just trying to think of what kind of project would be a good project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you just give examples as to what to bring for this summer workshop?
So I suggest bringing projects to have something to work on, but we also have other examples as well. It can be very broad. It could be a toy game, right? Or it could be something real. So you might be exploring Paris, for example, coding in R right? And querying GitHub repos about how they solve particular problems. That would be absolute great idea, fair game. So it doesn't have to be data that you have necessarily. It can be a problem that you have that you want to see if you can solve. But it's very, very broad-based now because the tools are pretty generalizable. All right, folks, we're going to end there. I will stick around for any additional questions that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take any final questions that people have. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Mark.
I have a quick question about the summer class.
Yes.
My husband's a retired rocket scientist. Can he take it with me?
Absolutely. We do open it up to the community. Would love to have him. Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for this. I'm cat sitting, and my whole thing was to make sure that the cat, she signed me out once.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm sorry I wasn't able to be more active, but thank you. This was really helpful.
Absolutely. No, very, very happy to. And apparently we're not paying enough attention to the cat. The cat is a little bit more intelligent than we thought.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye now. All right, folks. Miranda, we did not get to showing the code, so my apologies. But I'm glad that.
Oh, that's okay. I think we got good information.
Yeah, that was. It's so hard to switch screens. Oh my God. Oh, it's you do it for 3 years and you think that it's going to be easier, but well, at least it doesn't crash on me anymore. But
God rest.
Exactly. Okay, good. Yeah.